President Trump says that the tax claims made by the New York Times over the weekend are false, and he will release financial statements that will provide all of his assets, properties, and debts. The New York Times, as I'm sure you heard by now, released that the president had only paid $750 in federal income tax back in 2016. On Sunday, President Trump rejected those allegations and said that the newspaper illegally obtained tax information when he's paid millions in taxes. His tweet said, quote, "From the time I announced that I was going to run for president, showing all my properties, assets, and debts, it is a very impressive statement and also shows that I am the only president on record to also give my annual salary of $400,000 plus back to the people." All right, so much to talk about. Our first guest tonight has been a longtime Trump supporter and a major conservative voice for women and the Indian community, especially in California. She is the co-chair of a group, Women for Trump and Indian Voices for Trump, along with the RNC's National Committee chairwoman for California. Harmeet Dhillon now joining Real America. Harmeet, thank you so much for joining us today. How are you?
I'm great. Thanks for having me today, Dan.
Wow, where do we begin? It was a whirlwind weekend. The left came out with their ridiculous attacks on everything from taxes to the SCOTUS pick, and you name it. So I guess we'll begin because she's a woman. I think she's a great replacement. She's a mother of 7. She was attacked viciously by some crazy, crazy folks online, including this so-called professor from Boston University. You support the president. You are a minority woman. Let's talk about how they're attacking this woman and her family already, and we barely even know who she is. We've known her now for about 48 hours. Let's talk about Amy Coney Barrett.
Right. Well, one of my other titles includes National Co-Chair of Lawyers for Trump. And yesterday, our group with several thousand lawyers on the line were privileged to hear from President Trump himself about this nomination. And what I love about him and what so many others love about him is that he's a fighter. You've seen prior confirmations by battles by prior presidents where the nominee ran into some trouble and the president yanked that nomination rather than fight. And so we love that he fights. He's definitely going to fight for Judge Barrett, and she's worth fighting for. She's not quite an unknown to the legal community because she was confirmed for the 7th Circuit in 2017, and she's been mentioned as a potential shortlister for future vacancies for that entirety of that time. And so people have been looking at her from that perspective all along. And in those 3 years on the bench, lawyers who've looked at her record, including myself in great detail, have found her to be a thoughtful and consistent jurist who would be a great Supreme Court justice. The type of nasty personal attacks you're seeing out there are actually pretty fringe. Most of the left even is not commenting on her qualifications. Her qualifications are impeccable and better than many sitting Supreme Court justices. They're focusing on the timing and the politics of it. And, that's going to be decided in the Senate.
That's all they have. It's literally all they have. We watched last weekend on the Sunday talk shows, and then Monday, Speaker Pelosi come out and throw out arrows in her quiver and mention impeachment. That lasted all about 24 hours in the news cycle when they figured out that wasn't getting any traction and that they had no legal basis. And you're, again, a lawyer. There's no legal basis to impeach a president for doing his job, which the Constitution says you're supposed to nominate, go through the process, and appoint Supreme Court justices, which, by the way, a dying woman's wish is not the law. And Justice Ginsburg herself, in a New York Times article, I'm sure you're very familiar with it, in 2016, said that a president doesn't stop being president, even up to the last day in office. They're supposed to appoint Supreme Court justices, period. It's the law, correct?
That's absolutely right. And in fact, the president will be breaking the entire history of our country's precedent by refusing to do his duty in this election year. And in all of the years that there have been vacancies during an election year, presidents have nominated, and in every case but one where the Senate was held by the same party as the president, those nominees were confirmed. And so everybody on the left is quite sore about the Obama Merrick Garland appointment when he was a lame duck, but the Republicans controlled the Senate. They did not consent to that choice. End of story. So
yeah, exactly. And they tried
I think it's going to be very different this time because even the Republicans who are not thrilled with the president, I think that they understand the importance of this goes way beyond your petty disagreements with the president's tweets.
Yeah, exactly. Look, love him or hate him, you don't have to like what comes out of his Twitter account or out of his mouth sometimes. At the end of the day, he's making promises that he made on the campaign trail throughout the last 3.5, almost 4 years, and he's keeping them. And one of them, when he ran back in 2016, was to fill the vacant seats. There was how many? 200 and some that the Obama administration left. So he's been filling those seats. Unfortunately, someone has passed. You had folks either resign or pass, and so he got 3 seats in his first 4 years. Yes, it's unprecedented. Yes, it never happens, but it happened this time to this president, and the law is the law. I want to touch real quick, because you're a lawyer, and this came out as well, the president's taxes. We've heard about him since he announced that he was running. Now the New York Times somehow obtained illegally his tax returns. Look, there's a lot of millionaire, billionaire guys out there that avoid paying taxes, I'm sure, left and right. And I don't think that the information that was released shows the whole picture of how much properties are owned, how much outstanding debt there is, and almost outstanding debt that's owed to him. There was a lot of factors that weren't there. It was just, hey, he only paid this much. But I never heard them say he did anything illegally on those tax returns, right? There was nothing illegal done.
Well, so first of all, like you said, we do not have the entire tax returns. We must go back even further and look at the origin of this entire line of attack on the president. And it is, namely, that the left thought that in his tax returns they were going to find some itemized receipts of payments from foreign dictators, which is, of course, ludicrous on its face. But secondly, it isn't there, because if it were there, whoever criminally or civilly violated their obligations to leak these tax returns to the New York Times, that's not part of their story. And in fact, they acknowledge that. And so what are you left with? You're left with class warfare and taking pot shots at somebody who's wealthy and in the real estate business, highly leveraged, like every real estate investor who I know who's successful. The ignorant commentary on this is either just ignorant or it's dishonest. But anybody who has multiple businesses and files complex tax returns understands that the types of moves that the president has made here to legally limit his tax burden, I hope he's doing that, and I think it's very smart that he does, is commonplace, and there are very few people who have the means to do that who don't do that. In fact, I don't know of any. And so what's a more interesting question is, how does somebody who's a public servant his entire career, 47 years, like Joe Biden, have a multi-million-dollar tax bill that's due? What about his son? And where are the $3.9 million payments from the Moscow mayor's wife itemized on his tax return? These are really the good questions about tax law and tax returns.
Yeah. Let's see, there's that famous meme now that's been out for 4 years that says, I'd much rather see a politician who went into office broke and is now a multimillionaire's tax returns than a billionaire who went into office and has actually lost money since he's been in to serve the American people and not taken 1 penny of that $400,000 plus salary. I want to see the 535 members of Congress. That's what I want to see. Give me their tax returns. Let's talk about, because you head up that group, Women for Trump, and also Indian Voices for Trump. I've noticed something that the mainstream media won't even touch, that the Republican Party has more minorities, more younger people, more women running for Congress and Senate and local offices than the Dems could ever even think of in 2020, yet they portray themselves as the party of everyone, all-encompassing, of minorities, of women. You're a Trump supporter. You're a conservative. You're a woman. You're a minority. What does Trump need to do to make sure he gets those votes versus Biden, and why is Trump a better pick than Biden for minorities and women?
Look, engaging in some tough love here against my Republican Party. Over the years, the big difference between the two parties has been that the Democrats explicitly pander to people according to their skin color, their gender, when gender is now an outdated concept in the left, so I don't know what they're going to do with that in the future. But the Republican Party is really focused on its ideas and, bringing everybody in without regard to color or background. And, that tactic of going after immigrant communities on the basis of their race and what goodies you can give them as a government has been successful on the left. And so we're not going to follow that tactic in the Republican Party. But what this president has done, and broken from prior tradition of prior conservative presidents, has been to be very inclusive, and explicitly so, and really focus on some of those issues that are of particular concern to some minority communities. And so we look at some of the criminal justice reform that has taken place that has really been positively received by the African American community. And there are ways to go. It's not just the president's sort of the head of the party, but our party across the country could certainly do a better job and do even more in terms of recruitment and promotion. But yes, as a person who's been a volunteer in the Republican Party for the better part of my life, I have to say that I'm proud of the progress that we've made. We've made great strides. This president has the most diverse group of people he's appointed of any president, and frankly more so than President Obama. And so in 4 more years, I would expect to see even more of the same, and most Americans can expect that as well.
Harmeet, Dhillon, thank you so much for your insight. The head of, you got so many titles, I don't even have time to list them, Co-Chairwoman for Trump and Indian Voices for Trump, RNC National Committee Chairwoman for the state of California. Thank you so much for joining Real America. We really appreciate it. Come back anytime. Like I said, your insight is very, very needed on this type of show, because people need to hear that Republicans and people that support our president actually come from every walk of life and not like the narrative on the left. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Yep. All right. You've seen him gaffe time and time again, almost as if his brain isn't connecting with his mouth. So can Joe Biden pull it together for the first presidential debate tomorrow night? And will he answer the call by the president to take a drug test? We'll have more on that straight ahead. You're watching Real America.